Hi, this is Barry Fitzgerald, and I'll see you in the shadows.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para-X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Welcome to another Monday night here on the Shadows Radio. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm still not Kara.
No, Kara's still somewhere up in the ether or something. I'm not sure where she's at.
Did we contact NASA? Maybe aliens got her?
NASA, MUFON. I talked to the Crystal Skulls to see if maybe they had her tucked away somewhere. Nobody got her. I don't know. I am not sure. But I heard whisperings of her in the hallway, so there's quite possibly an appearance sometime soon.
Unless it's EVP.
It might be, but that would mean she was dead, and that's kind of sad, and I don't want to think that. That would be horrible. So let's
just a disembodied voice.
Yeah, that's one of those astral projections. How about that?
Okay.
Let's go with that. But in the meantime, the show rolls on, and tonight we are going to have a very interesting conversation about jewelry.
My favorite.
Yay. I don't know. I was expecting like a fanfare sound, but I guess since I'm pushing the buttons on this side and I didn't push any buttons, nothing's going to happen.
Oops,
yeah, whoops. I forgot to cue myself. But as always, let me go through the boring housekeeping stuff first. If you want to follow us on any kind of social media, you can find us at The Shadows Radio. And then if you want to podcast, Podomatic, Podbean, iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, all those things that allow you to relive our fun adventures here, you can always find most of our recordings on those sources, or you can go to theshadowsradio.com and actually click right on the show archive and pull up a complete catalog from pretty much all the way back to the beginning, which I don't know if you really want to go back that far, but if you do, they are there for you.
That's nice.
It is. And yes, we are aware that our website did blow up recently, but it is back up and running and everyone's very happy. So by the time this show airs, it should actually be functional, I hope.
New and improved.
It is new and improved. It's pretty.
Nice.
Because when it blew up, the IT monkey took the opportunity to actually update the design and freshen up some content. So that's always exciting.
I like that IT monkey.
IT monkey's a very busy little bug, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But, all right, so let's talk about the Hope Diamond. Oh, I spoiled it. My fault. Hold on, back that truck up. Let's talk about jewelry. So actually, no, this conversation came out kind of because a couple of months ago, 2 months ago or so, we had a conversation about King Tut and the curse of his tomb. And
yes.
It was very interesting, and it kind of went off on this whole, what other things are cursed, and how can I prove it kind of kick? Because I love stories like that. I love those kind of legends where you're like, here's this object, and I handed it to that guy, and then that guy died, so he handed it to his brother, and his brother ran out of money, so he handed it to his sister, and his sister died. It's like, there's just a lot of coincidence. Now, some of the stuff like we talked about in that episode with King Tut, some of it is coincidence or stretching to fit kind of the narrative to the curse, per se.
And some of it is just good old biologics at action. And
exactly.
The tomb hadn't been opened in a long time. There's a lot of bacteria in there, and there's a lot of bugs.
Damn bugs.
that are venomous.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of these curse stories, a lot of it is kind of just hype and speculation. But there's so much that isn't, that just for some reason for me, it's just a unique story to talk about. And I love these kind of cursed objects with these storied histories. Now, there's some that are like, the fall of Rome happened because this item was here, and then it kind of falls off the face of the earth. No, that's not what we're talking about. I want something with like a history that's traceable for, decades. So that's why I gleaned onto the Hope Diamond. If you're not familiar with the Hope Diamond, it is this gorgeous blue diamond set in like a smaller white diamond pendant on a white diamond chain. It currently lives at the Smithsonian. I saw it couple years ago, and then I saw it again last year. It's gorgeous. They have this beautiful like surround 360 around case, like you can see it. Have you ever seen it, Barbara?
I have not seen it.
Oh, I mean, have you seen a photo of it?
I'm looking at the photo now. Oh, man,
it is. I couldn't imagine having something like that around my neck. Like, I feel like the fear that it would fall off. Like, I get terrified when I think about the $5 necklace that I bought at Claire's. Like, I'm like, oh, I bought it.
It looks like even the chain around the necklace is diamond.
It is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of diamonds.
Wow.
So the Hope Diamond itself, if you've ever seen the Titanic movie, it kind of looks like that necklace that she throws in the ocean at the end, and everyone kind of goes, oh my God, like that part. Yeah. So it's a blue diamond, officially a blue diamond, weighing 45 carats, or just about 45 carats. It's the size of a walnut. And the insurance value on it at this point is $250 million. So $250 million. That's a lot of dollars.
That's a heck of a lot of dollars.
It's currently...
And is that just for the diamond itself and not all the other diamonds around it?
I don't know. I think it's for the entire setting, wow. But I think they consider the entire necklace assembly like the Hope Diamond. I don't think it's... I mean, I think the stone itself is the Hope Diamond, but the entire assembly kind of comes together. So right now it lives at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. Like I said, it's at the end of their gems exhibit, and it's a really cool exhibit. And by the way, the Smithsonian is free. If you ever want to go to a cool museum, the Smithsonian is free, all of them. So it's no excuses. But the diamond itself is classified as a type 2B, or which is a semiconductive and phosphorescence. It glows with a very strong red color that will kind of linger for a few seconds after exposure to shortwave ultraviolet light. And the blue color that you see when you look at like a photo of it is due to the boron in the stone. So it's not a pure white diamond. It's actually a blue diamond. I love the idea that it glows red, and actually the display case that they have it in actually does that. It actually shows you that, because it'll flash it red for like a few seconds, and then it'll fade back to blue, and then it'll flash it red, and then it'll fade. Like, you have to push the button, but it was, well, when I was there, you had to push the button. But it's pretty cool to see that. And then it actually like lingers, like it glows. It's kind of cool. But I'm assuming that a diamond that glows kind of bright red definitely is going to feed into a curse concept.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Even if they don't know what it means. Still,
exactly. Yeah. Anything that generally glows red is automatically assigned evil. Like, oh, yes, your eyes glow red. You are the devil. Oh, your necklace glows red. You also must be the devil. Congratulations.
It has an attachment.
Yes, it must be. It must be cursed. But this Hope Diamond, however, has a trail of, we'll call it, bloody history behind it. Owners have committed suicide, were murdered, left penniless. Many who came in contact with the diamond suffered failed marriages, deaths of their children, drug addiction, insanity, and just for fun, they probably had bad hair days and paper cuts. So, there's that. If you want to tie those into the curse, I'm all for that.
Because that stuff never happens by itself.
No, of course not. But, I mean, to have a trail of people... And we'll go through the history of like who passed it to who, but the fact that these people are all passing this diamond off with pretty significant like reasoning, like it's, I've ran out of money, I had to sell my giant diamond. No, I bought my giant diamond and my company collapsed. Oh, I bought my giant diamond and my country faced revolution. Like, it's not just like, oh, I bought my diamond and 50 years later I died. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like this trail is pretty thick, I guess. We'll call it thick with coincidence.
Okay.
So, according to Carl Schuker, who wrote the book called The Unexplained, he actually outlined the gem's origin as a vague but often described as, quote, it sparkled in the brow of an Indian temple idol, Indian being the country of India, until it was impiously plucked out by a thieving Hindu priest, whose punishment for this unholy act was a slow and agonizing death, end quote. That's the only kind of origin story of the actual stone that you hear about. There is really no trace of where or how this stone kind of started its journey. But putting it into a temple idol that was then stolen is a good basis for, and now it's cursed. At least in my head.
It could be, but look at the cut on that.
Well, before you look at the current picture, know that this stone has also been recut about 16 times. Yeah. So the current stone that you're looking at has been reset several times. So you're not looking at the original cut or size of the stone.
And recut. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say that's really professional for temple stone.
Yeah. So whether or not you believe that it actually came out of a temple or not, the stone, according to scientific testing done by the Smithsonian, was likely mined in the Kolar mine at Golconda, which is by the Krishna River in southwest India, and it was probably pulled out of the ground before 1600. And they could do all that with carbon dating and mineral testing and things like that, which I think is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I'm always fascinated by that. Like, you looked at a stone and you can tell me what part of the world it came from and how long it's been out of the ground. That's impressive.
Yeah, they can pull iron out of the ground and minerals that way and tell you where that's from, what mine it probably came out of. Yes, it's awesome stuff.
Yeah. And there's an entire article written by the National Geographic about the testing that they did. I mean, kind of like what the results were and all that kind of stuff. I did not include that in here because my eyes started to cross after about 3 minutes. So I was like, okay, we're going to skip that content. If you want to go find it, just Google. You can find it very easily. But the Smithsonian actually keeps a record of kind of the Hope Diamond's journeys, and they actually have an archivist whose job it was to kind of track down through the records the diamond, because there wasn't really any kind of record set. There was always rumor, the diamond belonged to so-and-so, it belonged to this king, it belonged to that king. It was passed down to, Betty Ford, it was passed down to this person, that person. You know what I mean? So like there was a lot of names and things attached to it. Mm-hmm. But the Smithsonian actually had somebody whose job it was to kind of trace it back and say, no, this is the official timeline of who went to what. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to tie that into the curses. Okay. So it'll be fun. You ready?
Ready.
All right. So the first record, according to, and this is every single thing on this timeline is according to the Smithsonian Institute and is published on their website if you want to look it up. But according to the Smithsonian, in 1668, the stone was sold by a French merchant named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier to King Louis XIV for a, quote, handsome profit in a bundle of 14 large diamonds and several smaller ones. At the time, the diamond was listed at 112 and 3/16 carats. It's gigantic.
Yeah.
That is enormous. Supposedly it was triangular in shape and very roughly cut.
Okay.
The color was also listed in Tavernier's records as, quote, a beautiful violet. So right now it's very brilliantly bright blue. They think that just because the large size of the stone, light obviously had a different way of refracting through it, therefore it probably had a more violet sure. color. So Tavernier, however, is the first victim of our Hope Diamond curse. Because supposedly the merchant soon after selling the diamond came down with a raging fever, and after he died, his body was possibly ravaged by wolves, depending on which news source you read.
Wow. Okay.
Well, supposedly he was buried. So there's two versions of the story that I saw. I didn't see any first-hand accounts, but both of them claimed first-hand sources. Everyone agrees that he caught a raging fever and died very soon after selling the diamond. One says that he was taken home and the ship that he was taken home on actually caught got caught in a storm. However, the body made it home safely and he was buried in France. The other story says that the cart that was taking him to the ship that was supposed to take him home was actually it broke an axle or something, and when the guy went to walk back for help, the body was left behind and was ravaged by wolves.
Okay.
While, he was waiting for his axle to be fixed or whatever.
That could be.
Both of them seem like entirely plausible stories, but however, he is now listed as the first victim of the curse. I feel like we need like a Law and Order sound, like dun-dun. Okay. Something. I don't know. Okay. So that was in 1668. In 1673, the stone was then recut by Sieur Pitou, and I probably butchered the crap out of that. It's Sieur, that's his first name, and Pitau is his last name. He was the official court jeweler of King Louis XIV, and he set the stone in gold to be hung on a neck ribbon. It was listed in the court records as the French blue, or the blue diamond of the crown. And it was to be worn by the king during ceremonial occasions. At this point, it was listed at 67 1/8 carat. Now, the original diamond was 112 3/16 carat. It's now 67 1/8 carat. Where did the other 60 carats go?
Very good question. And are they cursed too?
That's a thing I want to know. Now, originally I had heard way back when someone said, when the French Revolution came around and King Louis lost his head with Marie Antoinette, the diamond was chopped in half, which is why it's now considerably smaller than it was. But this timeline, and again, this is the official timeline from the Smithsonian, says that it was halved long before the French Revolution. We're still another 80 years away from the French Revolution.
Right.
So I don't know. I just want to know what the other rest of the carats. I feel like our good old court jeweler was pocketing some of them.
Like, could be because they can cut those things fairly accurately by the facet inside there.
Yep.
And that would have made several other small.
Which is probably what ended up happening. Is he probably cut like the one big chunk for the middle, like for the necklace, and then probably use the smaller chunks to decorate other things.
Yeah,
but
they should be cursed too.
Probably. I'm going to go with they are, and we're going to cover that in different pot. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I have no idea what happened to the other 60 carats here because they be gone. I just imagine the intern who has to sweep up this things like piece for me, piece for you, piece for me, like tuck it in my pocket. Yeah. All right. So King Louis then dies of gangrene, and all of his legitimate children died in childhood except for one. So that is the second victim of our curse, and all his children were unfortunate sub-victims. Victims by association? We'll go with that. They were victims by association. Or it could be that it was a really bad time to be somebody who was in a childhood because everyone died in childhood at that point.
Yeah, pretty much everybody.
Yeah. There was a big chunk of the population who never made it to 20. So, But, coincidence aside, victims of curse. Nicolas Fouquet, who worked for Louis, wore the diamond on a very special occasion. Immediately after that, he fell out of favor with the king and was banished from the Kingdom of France. While he was out, his sentence was commuted to life in prison, and he spent 15 years in the fortress of Pignerol. Probably just killed that one too. Pignerol. Some sources claim he is the man in the iron mask, but as that identity has never actually been proven, it's all speculation. So he is also
all of that for wearing the gem?
No. He was given permission to wear the gem, as King Louis often granted it as a special favor to people who were, high favor of the court. It just, after he wore it, he then was banished for falling out of favor, and then he was commuted and got to spend the rest of his life in a prison. So there's that. Yeah. So King Louis XV in 1749, so he's the son of King Louis XIV, who died of gangrene, like we said, had the stone reset again as jewelry for the Order of the Golden Fleece. There's no record of what it actually looked like at that point, but his idea is it probably at that point gained some kind of chain and became more of a pendant rather than just a floating kind of piece of stone. In 1792, the diamond was actually stolen during the French Revolution. Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were the last official owners of the stone, And they obviously both lost their heads at the guillotine. So many people call them victims of the Hope Diamond as well. But one of the sadder kind of victims during this time period was Marie Louise. She was the Princess of Lamballe, who was a member of the court and Marie Antoinette's closest confidant, who wore the diamond on several occasions. She was attacked by a mob, beaten with a hammer, decapitated, stripped and disemboweled, among some other gruesome things that I'm not even going to get into some of the specifics, but she unfortunately met a very gnarly end. Her head was then impaled on a pike and paraded past Marie Antoinette's window for several days, I saw. Some records say it was just back and forth for days just to torture Marie Antoinette. But she is also listed as a victim of the Hope Diamond.
Wow.
Yeah.
More like a victim of the French Revolution. But
well, the French Revolution is because of the Hope Diamond. Didn't you hear that?
Okay, I must have missed that in history class.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Welcome to the Shadows Radio, where we fill in all the holes your history teacher failed at. Good job, history teachers. Way to fail. I'm kidding. I love history teachers. They are my friends. I'm a big fan of them. Okay.
So who's next?
After the French Revolution, the record of the stone goes cold for about 20 years. And this is kind of where even the Smithsonian admits that the stone that we're talking about, the French blue or the blue diamond of the crown, is most likely the Hope Diamond, because at this point, like I said, there's a 20-year gap. So they had this brilliant blue diamond that kind of disappears off the face of the earth and then pops back up. So they're kind of making that connection by, I don't know, a leap of logic or something. But we're going to take a real quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about what happens after it resurfaces. So you're listening to the Shadows Radio here on the Power X Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Gillo from Ghost Adventures, and you're listening to Parax Radio.
Hi, this is Hollywood Hunt Rider Marla Brooks, and you're listening to the Parax Radio Network.
But remember, we'll always see you in the shadows.
Paramount, 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 Paramount.
Welcome back to the Shadows Radio here on the Parax Radio Network. I'm still Rebecca.
I'm still not Kara.
And we are talking about cursed jewelry because, you know, any guy who's ever given a girl jewelry and then they broke up always feels like it's cursed, right? Is that the thing?
Yeah.
That's I don't know. I just totally butchered that. That's a quote from a movie and I just killed it. So pretend I didn't say that. We're going to start over. Welcome back to the Shadows Radio here on the Parax Radio Network. I'm still Rebecca.
And I'm still not Kara.
And I totally did not say that thing before. Okay. So, we are talking about the Hope Diamond. Before the break, we got all the way up to the French Revolution, where the diamond kind of goes MIA for a little while. And just to clarify, they didn't just steal the Hope Diamond. They actually stole the entirety of the French crown jewels. The majority of them were recovered at some point by the French government. As they kind of popped up for resale on the black market, and you know the French government's trying to like, that's ours, yoink, that one's ours, taking it back, kind of thing. But the Hope Diamond didn't really resurface again until 1812. A man named John Francillon described a deep blue diamond weighing 177 grains, which is approximately 44 carats, and it was in the possession of diamond merchant Daniel Eliason of London. There's a very strong evidence that this was the recut version of the French blue. People say it was the very same color. It had a very similar cut to it, but obviously it was another 20 carats shy of what it originally started at. Several sources claim that King George IV of the United Kingdom acquired the stone from Eliason, and after his death in 1830, it was actually sold to pay some of the king's enormous debt. The king himself had racked up some pretty considerable debt. So he is considered another victim of the curse because he acquires the diamond and then goes into massive debt, and then he sells the diamond, which actually you're going to hear that a lot coming up in the next couple of people. Go into debt and sell the diamond. But it's kind of interesting that there's another 20 carats cut off this diamond, which means that there's another little mini curses running around, as you were saying.
Mini curses, yeah. And here's the other, are they recutting just to throw people off the track, make it look like a different diamond?
I wonder that. I mean, my thought would be, okay, everyone knows that the 60 carat French blue looks like this. Here, let me trim it down to 40 carats, and here, you take these 20 carats, and you can still get a big chunk of change for that. And you take this 40 carat one and be like, oh, not the same. Look, this one's only 40 carat. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's what happened.
Yeah.
It's kind of an attempt to hide it.
Sounds like about right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So who's cursed next?
Okay, so this is actually where we get into the specifics of all the people who are about to buy and then go into very big debt. So in 1839, the diamond again pops up in the collection of Henry Philip Hope. So this is where we get the name the Hope Diamond, because this is the official the start of the official trail, as this is the documented part of the Hope Diamond's history. So Hope dies in 1839. The diamond is then passed to his son Henry Thomas Hope, and then eventually to a cousin, Lord Francis Hope. In 1901, Lord Hope got his permission from the Court of Chancery and his family to sell the stone to pay off the massive debt after he lost his entire inheritance, family land, and fortune, and get a divorce. So this is, again, another person that gets the stone somehow and then amasses a giant pile of debt and has to sell the stone. And if you're not familiar, Chancery Court usually hears cases where common law is insufficient. So things like trust, land law, guardianship, and inherent human rights. So because this is an inheritance, so he inherited the stone from somebody, technically it's not 100% his. If he didn't have it, he has to ask a sister, because I believe he had a sister or something, or another brother. So it's kind of like where the line gets a little iffy. So that's why it went to Chancery Court.
Okay.
And the court said, nope, it's actually his. You sell it. Go ahead, buddy. Also, don't run a big, massive debt.
Yeah.
But, live and learn and then get giant diamonds or something. So Lord Hope sells it to Joseph Frenkels and Son of New York, who kept the stone in their warehouse until they needed cash because the firm went bankrupt. They were sitting around waiting for someone to purchase the stone, and no one ever did. So they had this big, massive capital tie-up in this giant rock, and nobody wanted it, especially the fact that it was, the early 1900s. Wasn't a lot of big stone buying, I guess, happening. So the stone itself was sold for a bargain basement price, which is interesting. In 1908, the first article mentioning the curse appears in the Washington Post, and it's titled, Hope Diamond Has Brought Trouble to All Who Have Owned It. And it goes on to list all the people that they ascribe the curse of the Hope Diamond to. I could not find a version of that article. I tried. But apparently they list 37 different victims of the curse.
Okay.
That was a little much for me. I wasn't going to go there. But, that was the first, like I said, the first version of the Hope Diamond's curse. So after Frankel and Sons sells the stone, it's sold to Salem Habib, who puts it up for auction in 1909 at a Paris auction house. However, it does not sell at the auction, and Habib kind of gets it back. The auction house burns down, supposedly. Soon after that, however, it's sold to C.H. Rosenau. I'm really bad at French. And then resold to a name you'll probably know, Pierre Cartier.
Okay.
So the House of Cartier gets it in 1909. In 1910, the Hope Diamond, as it is now kind of officially called, is shown to a Mrs. Evelyn Walsh McLean, or McLean, of Washington, D.C. McLean and her husband were some of the wealthiest people in America. They owned several banks, real estate, and the Washington Post. Miss McLean, however, did not like the setting, and so she rejected the purchase and kind of sent it back to Cartier. Cartier, however, resets the stone, takes it back to the United States, where he hands it to McLean and says, "Here, why don't you borrow this for the weekend? Just, wear it around, see how it feels, and then let me know." So, it must have worked, though, because she was feeling it. Supposedly, the curse was made up by Pierre Cartier in an effort to entice Mrs. McLean to buy the diamond at this point. So supposedly he bases his story of the curse off of something called the Moonstone, which is written by Wilkie Collins, which is a story where a large yellow diamond had formed the eye of an idol of a Hindu deity until a Muslim conqueror looted the temple and stole the stone. The story then goes on to tell the tragedy, murder, kidnapping, and insanity that follows the gem as it travels around the world. And the curse, and that story, the curse is lifted when the stone is finally returned to the temple, which sounds an awful lot like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
Wait a minute. So he invents a curse to sell it to somebody who wants to buy a cursed necklace.
I don't necessarily know that she wants to buy a cursed necklace, but I think it's one of those things where, it's one of those cases of, what do you buy someone who has everything? Well, here,
a curse.
This diamond is excellent because it has a curse attached to it. You know what I mean? That's kind of the thing of, let me make this diamond more enticing than that one over there. Look, it's got a story. I don't know. At least that's where that's kind of what I'm thinking about it. But the story that gets tied to it, the Moonstone story, is very similar to this curse that we're talking about here. So McLean actually bought the stone in 1911, and this version that she buys is the diamond, the Hope Diamond, mounted on a headpiece as a three-tiered circlet of large white diamonds. So she's actually buying it as a tiara. It's not a necklace at this point. And then sometime between 1911 and 1947, she has it again reset to the pendant on the diamond necklace as it appears today. It's sitting between 16 white diamonds on the pendant. So that circle of white diamonds you see around the stone is 16 white diamonds, and then there's 45 more diamonds going up and down the chain.
Wow.
It's a lot of diamonds.
That's a lot.
So that's 61 total white diamonds on top of the one Hope Diamond. So McLean happily wore the diamond regularly in her life. She's often seen wearing it at events and charity functions. And supposedly she would also affix the jewel to her dog's collar and let him wander around with it for a while.
Okay.
There is nothing that happened to the dog related to the curse, though. At least nothing that I could find.
Doggies are immune.
Apparently.
And diamonds are a doggy's best friend.
I feel like diamonds are a girl's best friend, though. Isn't that the thing?
Well, duckies, too.
Oh. Duckies?
Doggies.
Okay, sorry. McLean, however, not immune to the curse. So McLean's mother-in-law dies. Her son died at the age of 10. Her husband leaves her for another woman and then later died in a mental hospital. Her daughter dies of a drug overdose at 25, and eventually she has to sell the Washington Post and dies in huge, massive amounts of debt. However, when she died, she still owned the Hope Diamond. So she did not go into debt and sell the diamond in an attempt to kill the debt. She held on to that diamond until the end.
Wow, okay.
So she dies in 1947. And at that point, Harry Winston Incorporated of New York purchases the McLean's complete jewelry collection. So he bought everything that she had, including the Hope Diamond.
Okay.
Additionally, in her collection was the 94.8 carat Star of the East diamond, the 15 carat Star of the South diamond, a 9 carat green diamond, and the 31 carat diamond that's now called the McLean diamond. That's a lot of stones.
Yeah.
That's a lot of huge stones. I am not surprised that this woman was broke.
Yeah. Man.
But apparently, I guess the doggy was out for,
You're broke, but you never give up the jewelry.
Well, I guess if you're gonna go down, you better go down sparkling, right?
Yeah.
I always get that quote from the Titanic. You ever see the Titanic movie?
No.
Oh, all right.
Not all the way through. Oh.
All right. Well, supposedly Benjamin Guggenheim, I think it was Benjamin Guggenheim. One of the Guggenheims is on the Titanic, and they're all kind of standing around waiting for the boat to sink. Basically, at this point, they've loaded the women and children. The men are left, and there's no boats left. And and the one guy stands there, and he goes, "Well, gentlemen, who wants a brandy? If we're gonna go down, we're gonna go down like gentlemen."
Okay.
And supposedly that's a legitimate quote that happened at that time. So I kind of get that vibe with this one. Like, I might have no money left. I might be eating nothing but ramen, but I got my giant 94 karat Star of the East stone and my 45 karat Hope Diamond. There's that.
Yeah.
So for most of the 50s, the Hope Diamond becomes part of Harry Winston's traveling exhibit called the Court of Jewels, and a lot of McLean's jewels make up a large portion of that. However, November 10th, 1958, they donate the Hope Diamond to the Smithsonian. If you're not familiar with how the diamond actually gets to the museum, it's not hand-delivered. It's not personally couriered. You want to know what they did to it? They tuck it in a brown manila envelope. They stuck $2 worth of stamps on it, and they mailed it.
Wow.
The $250 million Hope Diamond went through the post office. I can't get my phone bill to get to the people on the right without getting lost, and they're going to mail the Hope Diamond.
Get an envelope.
In a regular, and actually, if you go to the Postal Museum at the Smithsonian, so the Smithsonian has a museum that's entirely dedicated to the United States Postal Service, they actually have the envelope that the Hope Diamond arrived in as one of their displays.
Oh my God. Really?
It's just a regular, like you look at it, it looks like just a letter, like somebody mailed a letter.
Now that's faith in the post office.
That is and no insurance, because we're talking about the 50s, so there wasn't like, let me insure my package here. Nope, they just mailed it. So let's not get excited though, because James Todd, the mailman whose job was to deliver the diamond to the Smithsonian, he also was a victim of the curse. His wife passed away, his leg was crushed, his dog was strangled, and his house burned down, all in the year following the delivery of the Smithsonian's package.
Wow.
Yes. So over the years, the diamond has only actually left the museum 4 times. Once it was sent to France in 1962, in 1965, it went to an exhibit in South Africa. In 1984, it was lent back to Harry Winston as part of their 50th anniversary event. And in 1996, the diamond went back for some cleaning and minor restoration work. In the early 2000s, it was removed from the display, but it wasn't actually removed from the museum. Like, it was just in their back kind of storagey room. So some of the people that have been kind of tied to the diamond and to the curse, we talked about James Todd, the mailman. So Greek merchant Simon, Greek, I'm going to learn to speak Greek one day. Meoncharides supposedly owned the diamond at one point. And he actually drove his car over a cliff and killed himself, his wife, and his child. So I was trying to find a record of when he lived so that I would be able to kind of like tie him into the storyline. And it seems like he might have been a kind of contemporary of McLean. So I don't know if he necessarily might have owned the diamond or he just wore the diamond.
Okay.
But he was kind of in that time period. Wilhelm Falls was a Dutch jeweler who recut the diamond. And he actually is on record as actually having reset the diamond for Louis XVI. His son ended up going a little crazy, murdering him and then killing himself.
Okay.
Again, he is listed as a victim of the diamond. So, in 1911...
but if you recut it, then he has those mini curse pieces.
Maybe that's why his son went crazy, because he got one of the little mini pieces. So let's see. So 1911, the New York Times actually published an article, and it listed out a list of people who at that point had already been listed as a victim of the curse. Now, some of them we've talked about. Some of them I've never even heard of. So Jacques Collet bought the Hope Diamond from Simon Frankel and committed... This is actually a direct quote right out of the New York Times, by the way. So it says, Jacques Collet bought the Hope Diamond from Simon Frankel and committed suicide. Prince Ivan Kanatovsky bought it from Collet but was killed by Russian revolutionists. Kanatovsky loaned it to somebody Laud who was murdered by her sweetheart. And And then, let's see, Sultan Hamid gave it to Abu Sabir to polish, but later Sabir was imprisoned and tortured. Stone guardian Kalub Bey was hung by a mob in Turkey. A Turkish attendant named Hegver Aga was hanged for having it in his possession. King Louis, who gave it to Madame de Montespan, who he later abandoned her to his poor. He abandoned her to his poor. I'm not sure what that means. I'm skipping over the ones we already talked about. A temporary wear, Princess Lamballe was torn to pieces by a French mob. And then some years after Hendrik, who was William Fall's son, he's the one who went crazy and killed his father, it says it was sold to Francis Deleu, who died in misery and want. So those are the ones that we didn't even talk about. Those are just some other names that people have tied to the stone. Like, who are these people? But since they were not part of the official timeline of the stone, I did not include them in our previous conversation. But
okay.
So I think it's interesting that, people claim, Cartier made up the curse so that McLean would purchase it. However, the first article describing the curse appeared almost 4 years before Cartier owned the stone.
Right.
So, did he know about the story of the curse and kind of played up it? That I could believe. Hey, let me take this stone that supposedly is cursed and run with it, kind of thing.
Okay. Now, since it's been in the Smithsonian, and obviously nobody officially owns it, but people associated with it are cursed. What's anything happened to the Smithsonian people?
Well, funny you should ask that. Smithsonian curator Jeff Post actually said in an interview, he said, quote, "Since the arrival of the Hope Diamond, the National Gem Collection has grown steadily in size and stature, and today is considered by many to be the finest public display of gems in the world. For the Smithsonian, the Hope Diamond has only obviously been a source of good luck," end quote. So for them, I'm saying that they think it's good luck. They don't think it's cursed at all. They've had no problems with it. No one who's associated with it since it's been in the museum has had any problems. Now, there are some people who are kind of like Hope Diamond enthusiasts who say, the curse just went dormant because it's not really part of the circulation. If it was taken out and given to a private person rather than an institution, the curse would come back.
Okay.
But that's just people who I think really want it to be cursed.
Oh, Harry Winston is a pretty well-known person, and he wasn't cursed.
Well, it wasn't officially owned by Harry Winston. It was owned by Harry Winston Incorporated.
Okay.
Yeah, it was owned by the company. It wasn't owned by him.
Okay.
But he also ended up having to donate it, and they don't say why he donated it. So I wonder if something was going a little fishy.
Good point.
Because he didn't donate anything else. It's not like he shipped hey, I got a number of, because he had his traveling exhibit of a number of large pieces and popular pieces and famous pieces, and this is the only one he donates.
Yeah, good point.
Now there are some other Harry Winston pieces that are on loan to the Smithsonian, but they are circulating, meaning when you go there, only some of them are there at any one time.
Okay.
But the Hope Diamond is forever and permanently part of the Smithsonian's collection because it is officially donated. However, I think it is still technically owned by Harry Winston or the Harry Winston Company. I'm not entirely sure how that works because I don't know, because if you read it, it says that he donated it, but then it also says that it's on display, and when they ask for it back, they can,
It might be part of the agreement that they have that they donated it.
And mailed it through the
and mailed it through the post office.
That would piss me off. I'd be like, hey, where's my $250 million necklace? Oh, I'm sorry. It's delayed on the truck. it's in the, you own a $250 million necklace and you couldn't hire some dude to walk it 5 blocks or wherever it was going.
Really? The Star Wars Wookiee outfit has more security.
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't even know.
I don't think it probably travels that way today, but
yeah,
I find that fascinating. So we have assignments now. We have to figure out where all the mini curse pieces are.
This is important. Yeah, we need to figure out. So, but since they're separated from what's technically considered the heart of the stone, because when you look at a stone diamond, supposedly the center piece is the heart of the stone, where the most vibrant colors, and then obviously there's it kind of radiates out from there. So if they only
it's been trimmed away to pure evil?
maybe that's what it is. It's like that's why the curse got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse as it got smaller because it was closer to the surface. Unless when they chopped it from 112 down to 60, they literally just chopped it in half, in which case there's 2 pure evils out there.
Yeah, one would think. But again, you don't hear of any other bluestone out there that's wreaking havoc.
True.
That I'm aware of. Yeah.
Not that I know of. I mean, I looked up some other cursed jewelry, and obviously there's, every nation has their own version of cursed jewelry. But none of this caliber, I think.
Yeah. But let's face it, blue diamonds are beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
So I also want to put a note out here. I looked up, just out of curiosity, kind of Cartier and the McLeans. So Mr. and Mrs. Edward B. McLean sold or purchased the Hope Diamond for $180,000 in 1911.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of money in 1911.
Yeah. Holy smokes.
So actually, that number actually comes from this. So this is a clip from the New York Times, March 1911. It says, the malevolent influence that has for centuries dogged with discord and disaster the owners of the famous Hope Diamond has started again and without waste of time. Despite special precautions against ill luck taken at the time of its last sale, according to John S. Wise, Jr. of 20 Broad Street, attorney for Cartier, the Fifth Avenue jewelers who are suing Mr. and Mrs. Edward B. McLean for $180,000 its alleged purchase price. So at the time that it was sold to McLean's, I mean, they're claiming that they took some precautions against its bad luck. I just found that little clip like hysterical. I'm like, so 1911, you can imagine reading the paper and hearing that Mrs. McLean just bought a diamond for $180,000. Oh, and by the way, we took some precautions against the bad luck. I feel like that was thrown in there so nobody tried to steal them.
Yeah, well, I mean, one good way to stop thieves, because in those days you couldn't make duplicates.
Yep.
Like the glue trinkets that they have to
like the
copies,
paste stone and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what a better way to keep it from being stolen is a curse. Didn't work for King Tut, but heck.
The whole thing is just, I mean, it's a gorgeous stone.
Mm-hmm.
It was smaller than I thought. I just want to put that out there. For some reason, the way that it was described to me, I expected this giant thing. It was tiny. I mean, it was.
Well, it was at one time.
Well, yeah, it was twice the size at one point, and I don't know what happened. It got hacked apart, apparently.
It got really hacked apart.
Yeah.
And if I were a diamond, I'd be mad too,
Yeah. Yeah, so if you actually Google search the envelope for the Hope Diamond, it literally just has, it's a brown manila envelope with a bunch of stickers on it that just says, from Harry Winston to the Smithsonian. Bye. So I actually remember at one point I had read something that said that it was sent anonymously and nobody knew who owned it. And they had sent it because they weren't sure, they were done with the curse or whatever. So they donated to try and stop the thing, but that's not really true. It was actually donated by Harry Winston, and technically, I believe, like I said, still is owned by them. But there are some really cool diamonds in the collection.
But the tax write-off would be enormous.
Well, yeah. Let me
Even
donate this. Let me donate this giant $250 million thing. Yeah. We might take down the entirety of the Smithsonian, but I got a tax write-off.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think it's cursed? Do you think it's just coincidence that a giant diamond that went through the process, I guess?
Well, I mean, some of it is just, don't want to blame the diamond on the French Revolution.
True.
Because whoever had it would have died anyway. And, quite frankly, people in those days were investing really stupidly. So
Okay.
I'm thinking that some of that just probably, hey, let's buy this huge diamond and then sit on it and hopefully somebody will buy it for a profit. Oops, nope. So,
Yeah.
I think
Whoops.
that some of it is just bad luck and ill timing.
I agree. I feel like when I started learning about the Hope Diamond, like it's something that happened in school. But like, you kind of hear the story or whatever at some point. I feel like it was a lot more tragic when I first heard a story.
Mhm.
And now it's like, oh, it's a couple of guys that, lost out on a revolution and a couple of guys that ran out of money.
Pretty much.
Like, okay, these are all things I already knew, but like these are all pretty basic things that happen to people in general.
Yeah, at the
okay.
time,
And it kind
raging fevers happened all the time, especially in those days.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I still want to believe that it's a pissed off deity coming after people because, they did what they did. But
Well, that's the saga for another mini demons out there. Mini hope demons.
saga. No, sorry. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of. I'm on the fence about this one because I want to believe that it's true, just because like I said, the concept of demonic things possessing angry necklaces or something.
Oh, okay. One
Yeah.
question.
What?
Would you wear it?
Yes, it's pretty. Also, it's gigantic. Actually, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I probably would not wear it, and it's not because of the fact that it's cursed.
Okay.
I would not
Why?
wear it because I would be afraid of breaking it or
I
dropping
don't think
it.
you can break diamonds.
Or the chain or the setting, I would pop out and I would lose the damn thing. Like I would spend my entire night with my hand on top of it, like it's not going anywhere. I hear about these celebrities that get like, oh, I borrowed like the $3 million blah 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 necklace, and I'm like, you're funny. Like hell no. Like I don't want. I would like my $200 necklace from Macy's, and that's like my fancy jewelry. That's as fancy as I get because I'm terrified of losing things. I lose stuff like I don't know. I don't lose things, but like I bought like the the $25 pendant, costume jewelry somewhere one time, and I lost the pendant in my suitcase, and I was like heartbroken. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm never gonna see it again. And people are trying to tell me like it's a cheap thing that you bought from the craft lady at the fair, like you're fine. And I'm like, I was never gonna, I lost it, like that kind of thing. Yeah. And it was like, so could you imagine if my $25 necklace that I lost turned into a $250 million thing?
That would have been that good.
That would be horrendous. Yeah. And I would be in so much trouble.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't want to wear it. Nothing to do with the curse and everything to do with I don't want that responsibility.
Okay.
Just me. Would you wear it?
Yeah. Would you try it on?
I would try it on if I was seated stationary in front of a mirror and there was a guy behind me ready to catch it.
Yeah, okay.
Although did you see the new Ocean's 8 movie with all the women doing
No.
the heist? Okay. The premise of that was that they had I think it was a Cartier necklace that hadn't been out of the vault in like 50 years, something like that, and this was the first time some celebrity was going to wear it, and they were going to steal it. But what I thought was really cool was one of the things that they had was a special magnetic lock on it, so you had to have this key in order to actually remove the necklace from the person.
Okay.
So, like, when they got dressed, the guy from the jewelry company, and I believe it was Cartier, but I might be wrong, actually came with the little lock, put it on her neck, locked it, and left. And then she wasn't allowed to take it off until whenever she got home from the party. Then he came and he unlocked it and take it off. And that was like a big...
Oh, that's cool.
It was a big plot hole in their whole heist thing because they didn't have a key and they had to figure out how to make a key. That was like a whole part of the plot. But something like that, if it had something like that, I might actually be like, all right, maybe I'll wear it because it can't fall off.
Yeah.
And if it falls off, it's that guy's fault. Because
Exactly.
he didn't lock it so good. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an alarmist. Or maybe I'm a realist and know the fact that I am pretty clumsy.
Yeah. I'd like to try it on. Maybe take a selfie.
I could do a selfie in the Hope Diamond. I think that could happen. I actually don't think you're allowed to take pictures. I'm trying to remember if you're actually allowed to take pictures of it in the gallery. I don't think you are. I think once you get into the gallery, you're kind of on your own.
Yeah. I mean, there's some museums that will force you to put your cameras into a lock safe.
Oh, no, this is definitely not that. I know I had my camera when I was walking around the museum, but I think in that gallery, you were not allowed to take any pictures. I might be wrong. I'm trying to remember. It's
that can make sense.
But I feel
I don't
like
want people casing it.
Yeah, the other part of the museum, you definitely were allowed to take pictures. But there are plenty of pictures if you go online. There are plenty of pictures of the gallery itself and the setup and everything, like, official pictures. I think it's more just they don't want people lingering taking pictures.
Sure.
Because in order to get a picture of a piece of jewelry through a piece of glass, you got to set up your shot and, lighting and all that kind of stuff. I think that's what they don't want. They want people to keep moving and, see the stone and move on kind of thing. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, well, please tuck away your cursed jewelry for the evening. That is all we have here on the Shadows Radio. So we're going to wrap it up for tonight and say thank you for listening. And as always, I'm Rebecca.
And I'm still not Kara.
And we'll see you in the shadows.